everybody. Welcome back to episode 95
95.
on this Thursday night. Super happy that it's almost Friday in the weekend.
Yes.
This week went by very fast. Did it go by fast for you?
It did it? I don't know. It kind of, there were parts went faster than other parts. Some of it dragged a little bit, if I'm being perfectly honest. I got up this morning to work out and I did not feel it. I worked out, but I didn't feel it. I'm going to say that part of the day didn't move as fast as I would have
Yesterday,
liked.
I did not feel like it, and I was thinking, like, what should I do? And I ended up doing the exercise bike and watching cooking shows.
I know you did the exercise.
Because the seat was really low.
yeah, because I lifted weights and then went to get on the bike and I'm like, huh.
Why is the seat so low? Short people problems.
That's fine.
But yeah, that can always be motivated for me if I have if I have a stepper down there, we've got the thing. But if I can watch something to distract me, it's much better. So
yeah, for
as
sure.
soon as I thought I can watch some of my favorite chefs on YouTube, and then I was like done. So
done. I tend to listen to music, and I don't so much when I'm lifting weights.
Do you sing?
No, but I could because sometimes I listen to things that I know the words to. I tend to listen to music. I will play stupid games on my phone as a distraction. That sometimes helps. But this week I was listening to our friend Garland Jeffries,
Mm-hmm.
his 1981 album called Escape Artist. I was listening to the Los Lobos album Kiko, which came out in the 90s.
Love Los Lobos.
I got to tell you, they never, ever miss. There might be bands that do, that you like an individual song better or whatever. But I do not think there is a more consistent band. They never miss. There's never a bad song on a Los Lobos album. And that album, Kiko, is my favorite of theirs.
We should remember to write that down, because if you've never listened to Los Lobos, they are amazing.
Wonderful.
They've been together for 40 years. We've seen them in concert. It's always a great show.
And then today was live Clash at Shea Stadium from, 1983 or something like that.
Nice. Those are good music soundtracks.
Yes. One of my, many of my favorites.
And we just wanted to say thank you so much for all the nice comments from our last post. If you missed it, we were talking about our daughter who is transgender and all the support that people can give the transgender community, and lots of outpouring, lots of direct messages, parents also going through the same thing, and we're all in this together, and we appreciate all the kind comments, because it's not an easy thing for people who are going through. Obviously for us, we really love her and are super supportive of anything. But for the person going through it, it's definitely a road. So you just have to. It is a journey, and we're just helping her every step that we can.
One thing that was very nice is that we had mentioned this British woman who is a podcaster, and she's been in the music business and so forth for a long time, Sarah O'Connell. And she is trans, and we mentioned a lengthy video that she did on her show with a number of celebrities, and she was kind enough to follow us back.
I know.
To
we will be best friends with you if you want, Sarah.
Yes, but that was lovely. And along the same lines, yesterday, in my company, we had a discussion or I don't know what's the right term, presentation or something like that, maybe that's the way to put it, by a very high-ranking Reuters journalist who's been in the media for a long time, has a very high, significant position with Reuters News, and she is trans and made the transition just over the last couple of years, and she's been... And in particular, she was talking about going through this during the pandemic and quarantine, which was interesting in and of itself. But, she was someone who was, well known in a very visible profession. And so she was just talking about going through that process in a working environment. It's some people... do it when they're sort of in a young age, like between high school and starting a career, or college and starting a career, or maybe they do it when they're in college or something like that. And not that that's not challenging in its own right, but it does present kind of a different set of issues when you're a little bit older, and also you're established in a profession and you're known. But one of the things that I thought was particularly great about it was, she was talking about how in our company, people treated her really well. Her health care, was covered, and that sort of thing. I mean, obviously, she didn't go into, details. Right. It was nobody's business, and no one asked her. But just the important things of having the support of colleagues, having people, making a genuine effort to try to understand, so that they didn't, make mistakes, say the wrong thing, and that sort of thing. And
that's amazing.
It was pretty cool, and one of the things that she said that really, really, hit home, and I think this applies in so many different situations, is she talked about, in some ways, transitioning during the pandemic was a little bit, I don't want to say easier, but maybe a little bit easier because, you're kind of at home and you don't have to go out and face the world every single day. So you have a little bit of breathing room. And she talked about, how she was able to feel normal going through the transition. And even though she was in regular communication with her colleagues and was doing meetings, over Zoom or whatever, so people were face to face, it's still there was some it made it somewhat easier in that sense. But what then she talked a lot about the idea of wanting to feel normal. And what I really thought was really made an impact on me is that, that doesn't mean wanting to disappear. It doesn't mean wanting to hide who you are. It means wanting who you are to be normal.
Right.
She's talking about how we need to kind of expand our definition of what is normal. So it's funny when people say, I want to feel normal, I'm always reminded of the SpongeBob episode where Squidward is giving him a hard time and tells him he should be more normal. So he gets a video or something like that. Anyway, he turns into this, like, all of his edges are rounded and he's all smooth and he talks
and shiny.
And he talks in a real monotone voice. And, obviously the point of that show is that, it's not the real SpongeBob. Anyway, whatever. But that's not the kind of normal she means. It's not blend in or fade into the woodwork. It's, you always want to feel like you fit in, and you always want to feel normal in the sense that what you are going through and who you are is normal, right? So the idea of telling people they need to expand their idea of what normal is, I thought that was really
amazing. I like that a lot.
And you see this in so many different things, not just with people who are trans or the LGBT community, but you see it with we tend to think of ourselves as kind of like the default, like we're normal, and anyone else who's not white or straight, or men often feel this way, male, everyone else is defined by how they're different from us, right? So, for example, when we talk about sports, there's basketball and then there's women's basketball. There's track and field and then there's what, you know what I mean? So men's basketball is normal, that's the default, and women's basketball is something different, right? Instead of just talking about men's sports and women's sports, or just sports generally, we do that all the time.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't even think about that, but
right.
That's so true.
It's the same, when I have a lot of black friends and colleagues that I interact with on social media and so forth, and this is something that a lot of black folks talk about, how white people just kind of think of themselves, especially in America, and in Europe, I guess, as we're the sort of like the real people, the normal people, and everybody else is a deviation from us, right? And it's exhausting, I think, and that, that's what people will often say to me, is that, it's exhausting to have to deal with that sort of mentality where we think of ourselves as being normal and everyone else as being different. And so that really, really resonates. And I think that's always the case with, when you have a different ethnicity or race, sometimes there's a different physical appearance, right? So you're easily spotted as, well, you're black or you're white or you're this or you're that. And it's not necessarily something that you can hide, but other differences are not as obvious. You might be of a different religion, or maybe no religion at all. You might be gay, you might be bi, you might be, you might have some sort of a physical disability that's not immediately apparent. But those, you're always conscious of the fact that you're not normal to other people. Whereas even if they don't necessarily know and don't necessarily treat you differently,
but
you're
it's like a feeling
conscious
of like, yeah.
But for a trans person going through the transition of appearing to be normal, and then stepping away from that normal appearance and suddenly being perhaps identified as someone who the rest of us might say is, oh, well, that's different. Even, so even people who are accepting and tolerant still treat you as though you're different, right? And you're different in a positive sense. There's nothing wrong with differences. But again,
expanding that.
Right. Our understanding of what's normal should be more inclusive. It should encompass people who don't look like us, people who are from different parts of the world, people who are, somebody has an accent and speaks English differently than you. Chances are that person, speaks 2 or 3 languages where you only speak one,
Right.
But you might look down on that person because they have an accent, right? It's just all these little things. We have to sort of break away from the idea that there is a default person. In the law, if you ever had access to a database that had reported cases, sort of like Westlaw, which is a part of my company, and you search the term reasonable man, you'd find that, for generations, courts would use that term. If they're talking about conduct, whether or not conduct is reasonable, and it might be a negligence case or something else, did the person act reasonably? They would have talked about the reasonable man standard. Not the reasonable person standard, but the reasonable man standard. And it's an unthinking thing. We do that all the time. We've done that throughout history, but we gotta get away from that.
Yeah.
We put such burdens on other people without thinking about it, right?
And it just makes it harder for that person to
right.
live their life, kind of thing.
Even when we use a word like tolerance. Oh, I'm a tolerant person. That's like saying I get to judge, and I'm saying you're okay. I'll allow you. I'll tolerate you. You can live in my neighborhood.
Right.
I'll tolerate that. I mean, I understand where the original idea came from when people started talking about tolerance in the 50s and 60s and 70s. That's because there was a lot of intolerance in America. But we got to go way beyond being tolerant, right? That's not enough. It really has to be that you celebrate the fact that people are different, and different is normal.
I'm glad that they let that person speak to the whole. How many people got to go to that?
Several hundred. I mean, it was all on, over Teams.
But I think especially in the workplace where people may not feel comfortable transitioning because you're already there, you're established. Will I get fired? Will I not get a raise, promotion, whatever? All those things I'm sure go through people's heads. So it's nice that your company is so nice.
And I did send her a message in the chat, saying thanks, because, obviously we have a trans daughter and it means a lot to work for a company where that's really positive. And she did respond to it, and, she said it's great that some parents are, supportive, but not every parent is. And that's something I can't wrap my brain around. How you could ever, not accept and support your kids and whatever.
Yeah, it's
I
like
just don't
leaving them out
get
in the
it.
cold, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's the situation with some kids, and that's why they're have such a hard time if they are shunned from their families. They're young usually.
Yeah.
If you have to figure stuff out, don't know where to go, don't have money for school, and no parental guidance.
Right, and there's always
so
been,
sad.
and I mean, it's in a lot of different, it's by no means any one community, but it's always been a problem with LGBTQ plus, people. For some reason, that's a thing that will get you rejected. And I guess I would say I'm pretty lucky because even though I'm an older person and my parents were, the Depression era, World War II generation, they were real open-minded people. And so I kind of grew up with that mentality.
Same.
You're right, absolutely. And so it's just hard for me to wrap my head around, how you could ever, it's not like we never argued in my house, especially in the old days with my hippie brothers and sisters. And my parents were actually pretty tolerant of hippieism. But, my dad always wanted my older brothers to cut their hair and stuff like that. I mean, they had arguments, right? Of course you have arguments. But never if you don't cut your hair, I'm going to kick you out of the house. So that kind of, it was never like that. It was just they had differences of opinion. I remember my dad used to get very upset with my brother John because he was an artist and he would draw on his sneakers or his jeans, pen and ink. And for some reason drove my dad nuts.
Quit it.
And in retrospect, it seems like such a mild thing. I would almost think, if that were happening today, my parents would be like, wow, he's really talented.
Right. Exactly. Show me more.
But at the time, it was something that got under my dad's skin.
That is so funny.
But in any event.
Because maybe they had to clothe 11 children. So
Well,
maybe it was kind of
I think that
those could have gone to somebody else.
Yeah, except they probably wouldn't.
Yeah,
but yeah, maybe that was what I never really thought about that. But just in any event, nobody's perfect, and I am far from a perfect parent in any way, shape, or form. But I can't wrap my head around the idea that you would shun your own kid.
Yeah.
Even the worst people in the world know how to love their children.
Exactly.
I mean, apparently that's not true. But many bad people still love their kids. So
right.
That doesn't necessarily make you a hero.
I wonder if they have a thing where, some site or something like that, where there could be you need a parent or something like that, just to ask a question or something like that, or if you don't have anybody to go to.
No, there are organizations and groups that do that sort of thing, particularly for young people who are gay or trans or whatever, where they'll show up to events, for them. Of course, now I don't have any organization at the top of my head, but I know that is a thing. And one thing that I've been thinking a lot about doing, and I haven't been able to find an existing program like this, although I imagine they are, is one thing that we can do some pro bono work on the side as long as it's, approved by the company. But one thing I would like to get involved in doing is helping young people, trans people who need to change their names, get their driver's license or their birth certificate changed, things like that. It's typically not a very complicated process, but it is a legal process. And now, with the pandemic and a lot of things, a lot of court proceedings happening remotely, it's in some ways maybe easier, but also it's a new world navigating all these remote.
And for kids who don't know even where to begin, that's probably the first hurdle.
Right. So I mean
amazing.
That's something that I want to look into, and we'll follow up on that. I'm sure there are existing organizations, legal aid organizations that do that, but I think that would be a good project to get into, because changing a name is a really big and important step, and also having it officially recognized.
Yes.
So that when you apply for a credit card or a car loan, or you go to buy a piece of property someday, everything could be in the right name. Get your voter registration lined up.
Social Security card,
Social Security,
all that stuff.
Yeah, all your benefits at your job. I mean, it's a big deal to have your name, as an official record, so to speak. To legally change your name so that it's in all your documentation. One of the things that this woman was saying, and I apologize, I'm blanking on her first name, but one of her coworkers got her this giant coffee mug with her name on it, so that anytime she was in a meeting, no one would call her by her dead name. It's
right.
the term that is used for the name you may have been given at birth. So she had this big mug, and she had it with her, and it was great. I thought that was really cool.
And actually, our daughter is named after David's dad.
Yes.
Dad, and so that was another part that she was like felt bad about, and we're just like, don't worry
Right.
about that at all. It doesn't matter.
Right, and what I said to her at the time, when that she had mentioned that to me because she was a little concerned. My father died. He died in 1994, and she was born in 96, so
Mm-hmm.
it was roughly 2 years prior, and she was the first of her generation born after my father passed away, and so I had a pretty close relationship with my dad, so that's why I said that would be a name that I would like. Anyway, regardless, the point is, but what I told them at the time, and it's really true, is that the thing is, I did have a close relationship with my dad, but that's because I admired him.
Mm-hmm.
And
Talk amongst yourselves. So anyway, we definitely were just like, that is the least of your problems to worry about the name, because whatever name you pick.
If you admire somebody, you honor them by living by their values, not just by naming someone after him.
Yes.
So.
Definitely good. Now I got teary-eyed.
We're not gonna post.
We have no tissues.
We're not posting. Actually, I do upstairs, but that's because I had a cold. But anyway, sorry about that. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, I'll give you a topic.
But in any event, it was not a big deal. But so the idea of trying to get lawyers to help with it's a simple, straightforward process, but sometimes it's time consuming because it doesn't happen automatically. Typically, there is a court appearance involved if you're changing your name. At least that's the way we do it in Illinois. You have to appear before a judge. They don't ask a whole lot of questions, but there've always been laws about changing your name in order to prevent someone from doing it for fraudulent reasons. But in any event, so that would be, I think, a very valuable service.
I think that would be amazing.
And we're very fortunate in Illinois that the law is very favorable to trans people who want to change their names and get a new, driver's license, get a birth certificate issued, and all that sort of thing. So in Illinois, it's very simple. In other states, it may be more complicated.
All right, we will definitely follow up with that because that would be amazing and super helpful to many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what's been going on with us this week. Looking forward to the weekend. We have no plans as we haven't for the last year. But that's okay. We're heading in the right direction. In fact, today, and just briefly, because I know we're going long, but we are eligible for the vaccine. So we did the whole registration thing. Get the text. Yesterday we got the text for the first time to log on to get your appointment, whatever. What we didn't know is that there would be like 50,000 people for, yesterday I think was only for 9,000 vaccines. And then today, we literally, the second it turned 4 o'clock, we're just like on it and everything. And there was already 50,000 people in line for 22,000 slots. It took a whole hour of refreshing, and so, but you don't know where you were on the queue. You could, it could say 50 people are waiting.
You could be the first, or you could be the last.
Yeah, so we did not make it.
I think I just have to point out one thing. So every Sunday, I don't always make the call, but we have a call with my siblings. And so the topic of vaccinations has been...
David is the youngest.
Yeah, you didn't have to point it. It's out of the bag now. The topic of vaccinations come up frequently, and they'll ask me, have you registered? Have you gotten it yet? Where are you? And And I'm like, you're saying I'm fat, right? I mean, let's be honest, because you know my age.
Right.
You know that I'm not I don't make the cutoff. So you must be thinking I qualify because I'm fat. I haven't pointed that out to them yet.
Yeah.
But it is kind of funny. I just go, no, I haven't.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. So we're going to keep trying. We keep on things. We've got feelers out to multiple places, so we'll see what pops up. But I think it's just kind of like...
That's our vaccination journey.
Just going to be a long haul to get to the thing. And you just sometimes are lucky, and sometimes you just have to wait it out. So
yeah.
Hopefully in your state it's going well and it's not as complicated or easy to get. So
right.
So yeah, that wraps up our show for tonight.
There's no crying in podcasting.
Yeah, there's no crying in podcasting. But we will definitely see you on Saturday. So I hope you guys have a good rest of the week, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.